and have been making forward progress in the countdown. About 45 minutes ago, at the T-1 hour mark, our chief engineer held a technical poll. About 20 minutes later, our launch director held a propellant load and launch readiness go, no-go poll. With our team's go for launch, Falcon 9 started loading propellants at T-minus 35 minutes. Weather at the launch site is looking great, but we are keeping our eyes on weather for our recovery operations out in the Atlantic Ocean. But as of now, all systems are green for an on-time liftoff of 1:19 a.m. Eastern. With that, let's take a closer look at that rocket you see on your screen. You're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 standing 229 feet tall, which is slightly taller than a 21-story building. Falcon 9 is a reusable two-stage rocket designed and manufactured by SpaceX for the reliable and safe transport of people and payloads into Earth orbit and beyond. And if you happen to be down in the Cape Canaveral area right now, you'd notice that we have not one, but two rockets currently vertical, as you see there, one on each of our pads. On the left-hand side is the Starlink mission that's set to take off just a couple minutes from now. And on the right is another Starlink mission at our pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center. And that mission is currently targeted to launch this Friday. These two launches will mark our fourth and fifth launches already for 2021. So clearly a busy start, but off to a great start. Hopefully you can join us for our next Starlink mission later this week. Getting back to today's mission, starting at the base of your screen, you can see the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle that's covered in soot from a previous mission. That's our first stage. At liftoff, Falcon 9's first stage has thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power, consuming 700 gallons of fuel per second. With the help of 9 Merlin engines, its objective is to accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere to space and then separate from the rest of the rocket at about 2.5 minutes into flight. From there, it'll make its way back to Earth, and we're targeting a drone ship landing. There you see on your screen our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. For reference, our drone ships are equivalent to the size of a football field. If successful, this will mark our 74th recovery of an orbital class rocket. Above the first stage is the second stage, and that has a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine, which ignites after the first stage separates. At full power, the Merlin vacuum engine operates with the greatest efficiency ever for an American-made hydrocarbon rocket engine. The second stage is what will carry our Starlink satellites to orbit. And there at the top of the rocket, you'll also notice the large nose cone. That is the satellite fairing. The fairing houses the Starlink satellites and protects them until the vehicle is outside the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing separates to expose the satellites to space. Today, we are using a flight-proven fairing. Each half has flown once before, and we will be attempting to recover each of them again by retrieving them from the water using our vessels that you see there on screen, Ms. Chief and Ms. Tree. And lastly, the large truss structure that you see there next to the rocket is the Transporter Erector, or TE. We use it to roll the rocket out to the pad and raise it to its vertical launch position. The TE also routes the vehicle's fluids, power, and telemetry umbilicals from the ground systems to the rocket and satellites until F9 goes on internal power and clears the pad. At liftoff, it will retract in order to clear the way for Falcon 9's ascent. In a rare occurrence for tricky Florida weather around the Space Coast, tonight our probability of violating launch commit criteria is 1% or less. But like I said, we are keeping our eye on the weather out in the Atlantic Ocean for our recovering operations.
Well, it sounds like they're going to have a really good chance of launching here tonight. You almost never hear that with the probability of launch being, less than 1% of violating the weather, which is amazing. Does sound like they're watching for some weather downrange at the recovery locations. But yeah, if you're just joining us, welcome back to the launch pad. You're currently watching our live launch coverage of Starlink 18 with SpaceX from Slick 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, just by the Kennedy Space Center. It was supposed to be a doubleheader tonight, but they have delayed Starlink 17 until later tomorrow. So make sure you follow us up on Twitter for updates on that. But yeah, you saw a moment ago the live shot of the two rockets on the pads together. Always an incredible sight to see two Falcon 9s stacked, ready to go, with 120 Starlink satellites ready for launch. And we are just minutes away from liftoff here, as long as everything continues. Right now, we're watching that large truss structure just behind it. The kind of clam that held the rocket has opened up, and now it's going to start to retract just a couple of degrees to clear the way for Falcon 9 at ignition. A little bit more details about tonight. Again, we're launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Tonight's payload is 15,600 kilograms, or about 34,000 pounds, and it's going to a low Earth orbit at 550 kilometers in altitude. They will be attempting to recover the booster, and this is a historical mission, as this booster is breaking the record of the fastest turnaround time. Today's booster was used just 27 days ago, and the previous record was 38 days. So SpaceX really picking up their speed on their quick recovery and quick turnaround time for this. This is the 9th Falcon 9 mission with no static fire for it, and it is their 4th reflight booster for this year, and it is the 6th flight, actually, of this specific booster. Today's booster will be attempted to be recovered by, of course, I Still Love You, which is currently located about 633 kilometers downrange from the Cape, and is awaiting there. They also have Go Miss Tree and Go Miss Chief, stationed about 700 kilometers downrange, that will attempt to recover the fairings. The fairing halves are not new. The first half flew on the SAOCOM 1B mission, and then the other half flew on the GPS-3 mission. They have had a turnaround time of 158 days and 219 days. So even the fairings now very quickly are getting turned around and everything there. But they are proceeding with the count. We should soon be hearing them do their go, no go for it and finish fueling up there. You will see a large amount of venting here shortly as they backflow all the hoses and pipes, just clearing out that excess fuel before ignition once fueling is complete. So that is expected to see. The reason we're seeing all this kind of smoke coming off of the rocket tonight, that's not smoke, that's condensation and the boiling off of the super chilled fuels in the Falcon 9.
Surrounding ground, water, and airspace, and are green for launch.
And they just confirmed that all the areas around are green for launch, the marine, the airspace, which means everything is cleared for launch, which is great to hear. And we're going to bring their audio back in here as we listen to the last 90 seconds before liftoff.
I mentioned both the first and second stages are now fully loaded with propellant. The white cloud that you see venting there is just...
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
Oh, they were here to call it final confirmation for that stage 2 LOX load. And the white cloud there is just the leftover liquid oxygen in the load lines there in the transporter erector, vaporizing as they come into contact with the ambient air. In just a few seconds, Falcon 9 will be in startup, and the first and second stages will begin to pressurize for launch.
So that big puff there is just them clearing all those lines, making sure everything's cleared out and safe for launch.
Falcon 9's in startup.
And we're in startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup. The onboard flight computers have taken over the launch countdown.
T-minus 45 seconds. I'll just go for launch.
Here we go. Go Starlink.
Final go for launch today. At this point in time, we are green for today's launch. Let's listen in to the terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes
30 seconds.
our stack of Starlink satellites into orbit.
Looks like they turned some lights off on the pad. Here we go, 20 seconds. Make sure to tune in on our Twitter and our social media for updates later as we hear more about the updates for Starlink
9,
tomorrow.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
What a gorgeous shot. What a night.
Vehicle is pitching downrange. and chamber pressure is nominal.
There we see Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying our stack of Starlink satellites into orbit. There we just heard that power and telemetry are all nominal. We're going to throttle the engines down in preparation for max Q. And this is the largest structural load that the vehicle will see during ascent, so slowing the vehicle down a little helps during that short period. Max Q coming up here in just a couple of seconds.
If you are anywhere in the Florida coast, take a look up and out. You might be able to see Starlink.
Max Q.
There we heard the call out for max Q. Now, in about a minute, the next 3 events will be happening back to back. First, we have main engine cutoff for MECO, and that's where all 9 of the M1D engines that are currently firing will shut down. And this will help slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation, which is event number 2.
Stage 1 is following a nominal trajectory.
And as the name suggests, stage SEP is where the first and second stages will separate from each other. And the first stage will start to make its way back down to Earth for landing on our drone ship, while second stage continues its journey with the third event, SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. This is where the MVAC engine will light up and begin to propel the second stage along with those Starlink satellites to orbit. And that main engine cutoff event is taking place in about 10 seconds.
So we're going to stand by here for MECO. We're going to see that plume become smaller and then go dark. And there's main engine cutoff. Standing by for separation.
Stage separation confirmed.
And there it is. Their video feed's really good tonight. There isn't much of a delay, which is really nice. And there is second engine ignition.
Events happening in quick succession prior to MVAC ignition there that you see. Caught a glimpse of, and on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the Space Coast illuminated by the night lights. That's an awesome shot. There as we see the grid fins beginning their deployment. So everything looking great there on second stage.
Bearing separation confirmed.
We heard the verbal call out.
And there go the fairings.
Nominal trajectories.
All right, great news all around. We had fairing separation. Those we'll be attempting to recover those using our recovery vessels. Then we heard everything looking nominal for both first and second stages. It's dark on the left-hand side of your screen there as the Space Coast night lights fade out of view, but that first stage is going to be coming back down and making a landing. And in order to do so, it'll be executing 2 burns in order to make that drone ship landing. The first burn is the entry burn, where 3 of the M1D engines will reignite. This will help to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is the landing burn, and that is
Acquisition of signal Bermuda.
And that is a single engine burn where we will reignite the center engine, and that will help bring the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to make a soft landing on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you. Everything continues to look great there. Trajectory looking nominal for second stage. Bright white glow coming from that MVAC nozzle.
You know, they've done this so many times. It's there's not many surprises, which is a really great thing. It's like clockwork launching. That's why they can do 2 within just a couple of hours. I mean, originally we were going to have Starlink 17 and 18 only about 4 hours apart for it, but they have pushed those so they're a little bit further apart. Next one's going to be tomorrow. A little bit more about what we're expecting coming up here prior to the landing, and then what from that. Following landing, the first engine cutoff will be coming up here in just a little bit, the second stage engine cutoff for SECO 1 is at 8 minutes and 50 seconds into the flight. That engine will be restarted at 45 minutes into the flight and 55 seconds with a cutoff just 1 second later, just to finalize that orbit. And then payload deployment won't be for another 20 minutes at 1 hour and 5 minutes. So we'll stick around and answer some questions. We're going to leave the feed up here for it, but we'll also just take a break once we see landing and as we await for that second engine ignition and then payload deployment.
Falcon 9 first stage is also equipped with 4 landing legs, and we make those using state-of-the-art carbon fiber with aluminum honeycomb. And those are placed symmetrically around the base of the rocket and deploy just a few seconds prior to landing. So we're expecting that entry burn to begin in 5 seconds.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Those little puffs you're seeing are the RCS, just helping aim the booster, getting ready for that entry burn as it begins its descent back into the Earth's atmosphere. There we go.
So this 20-second burn has just begun. And you can see that there on the left-hand side of your screen. If you look closely, you might be able to see those grid fins actuate to assist
Stage 1, entry burn, shutdown.
steering of that stage 1, and as you just heard, shutdown of that entry burn. That is the
Those
first
vehicles
of
continue to follow nominal trajectories.
that is the first of 2 burns that first stage will perform today. Good news there that both vehicles are following nominal trajectories. That landing burn will take place in just under a minute. Because this landing is a drone ship landing instead of a land landing or return to launch site landing, there's only 2 burns required for this landing attempt as opposed to 3, because the first stage follows an arc. There is no boost back or
Entry transonic.
there is no boost back or flip maneuver required. So only 2 burns being executed today.
With the landing burn here, remember when it comes close to the pad there, it can shake it up and that we can have the chance of losing the feed, but hopefully we'll have a clear feed here tonight. Again, this landing pad is downrange
And that landing burn,
over 500
we have a
kilometers.
shot of the drone ship holding position in the Atlantic Ocean.
Landing burn, startup.
And there
Here
we
it
can see the light
comes.
beginning to illuminate the platform and the
Look at the
waters
sea
around.
light up around it too. That's a really nice shot.
Stage 2 has entered terminal
Stage
guidance.
1, landing leg, deploy.
Okay, let's see if we're able to stick this landing.
Right on the center.
Looks pretty good.
There we go. Smack dab
And
in the
we can
middle of
see
it.
The first stage has landed. This marks
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
This marks the 74th successful recovery of an orbital class rocket and the 5th recovery for that particular booster that you see there. So that's all great news for the first stage. Turning our attention to the second
That
stage.
cheering that you're hearing in the background is this was the fastest turnaround time of a booster that SpaceX has ever done. This booster was flown just a short 27 days ago. So they are very excited to have seen that be successful.
Wait to hear the call out for good orbit.
And this is a different screen I don't believe we've seen. We're waiting to hear about a good orbit. And we
Okay,
just
and there
heard
we just heard
they've
we
got
have
a
good orbit there for second stage. It's going to coast for a little bit in this orbit, actually for the next 35 minutes or so. While that happens, take a look at this animation showcasing where we are in the coast phase. We'll see you back here at T plus 45 minutes for a second stage relight.
And just like that, we are now waiting for the second stage relight, which is going to be a little bit of a wait here. We're going to be looking at that happening at 45 minutes, 55 seconds into today's flight. And it's just for 1 second, so super quick right there. Great shot looking into SpaceX control there. And it was really great today. If you didn't join us, we had an incredible interview with Jarek Isaacman, the founder and commander and benefactor of Inspiration 4. SpaceX is partnering with them for the first ever fully civilian crewed mission later this year, and we got to sit down with him today for a one-on-one exclusive interview, and there's definitely some incredible things that he shared about the capsule, about the mission, and how you can have a chance to be in the generosity or prosperity seat. So make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and check out that interview. He was at, it looked like mission control, just down the hallway from this shot here today, working with SpaceX on getting everything ready for the Inspiration 4 mission later this year. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We're going to hang out here and just wait until we have second engine ignition coming up in about 35 minutes or so. So we will be right back. You're watching the Launchpad live coverage of Starlink 18's mission, which has just completed a successful launch. We'll be right back.
Expected loss of signal, Bermuda. Expected loss of signal, Newfoundland. Acquisition of signal, Goonhilly. Detected loss of signal, Goonhilly. Position a signal reef.
And we are standing by for the second engine stage ignition. This is going to be a very quick 1 second burn, just finalizing the orbit. And then we've got another about 20 minutes until we see deployment of the Starlink 18 batch of satellites, pushing SpaceX over the number of over 1,000 active satellites in orbit, setting another record. We should be seeing the second stage ignition here in just over 90 seconds.
Back engine chill has begun.
So they've started the engine chill on the second stage, getting ready for that reignition. Starlink is currently coasted over 30 minutes, 3 times longer than the time it takes it to get from liftoff into an orbit. SpaceX has also confirmed on their website that they will be going for a launch at almost identical time tomorrow for Starlink 17, The second mission that was planned for in a couple hours from now has been pushed till tomorrow evening, morning. So join us then. Again, if you're new here at the Launchpad, we cover everything space, space flight, space engineering, and the future of space. We'd love to have you here on the channel. So if you hit that subscribe button, you'll never miss a new video. Today, we released our one-on-one exclusive interview with Jared Isaacman of Inspiration 4. This is the third time we've been live in 36 hours. So it's been a lot of stuff happening, a busy day and 2 days in space, and we're excited to be bringing you all of it here.
Welcome back to the webcast for our 18th Starlink mission, which lifted off from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station just over 45 minutes ago. We had an on-time liftoff, a great stage 1 landing on our drone ship, of course I Still Love You, which was stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. And there you can see on your screen, we have second stage. Right now, everything looks great there. We are awaiting the relight of that second stage, the event known as SES2, or Second Engine Start 2. And that'll be coming up momentarily at the 45-6 minute mark. It'll be a very short 1-second burn of our MVAC engine. Now, we are having a little bit of a connectivity issue with our ground station. So we might not be able to see SES2, but I think we'll be all right. If you hear background noise, our second shift in production here at our manufacturing headquarters in Hawthorne, California is finishing up for the evening. So bear with me if you get any background noise there. If you're just joining us, we are coming up to Second Engine Start 2, or SES2, the second and final burn for our MVAC engine this morning.
MVAC ignition and shutdown.
All right, like I said, that was just a quick 1-second burn, and we're gonna hang out here for a moment until we hear confirmation that we're in a good orbit. Like I mentioned, that is the
Nominal insertion orbit.
All right, so we heard that we've got a good orbit there.
Expected loss of signal, reef.
We have another 15-minute coast phase before we deploy this next batch of Starlink satellites into orbit. During this time, the spacecraft will start to spin along its central axis, and that'll give the Starlink satellites the momentum that they need to space themselves out over time after they deploy. While this happens, sit back and enjoy some more space tunes. We'll see you back here at T+1 hour and 4 minutes.
So the deployment of Starlink 18 is expected at 4 minutes and 52 seconds into the after the hour mark for it. So we're going to be waiting for that. We're looking just under about 20 minutes there. They said they'll be back in about 15 minutes to bring us that coverage, and hopefully they'll be over a ground. Based on their current trajectory, it does look like they'll probably be over some ground stations there. As you can see right now, they are in the middle of nowhere. So seeing that they have some issues with their ground stations isn't surprising for it. We have seen a successful landing of tonight's booster. That's going to start making its way back. And fairings should be getting caught or attempted to be caught right about now. We may or may not hear on the mission control audio whether they got those or not. Generally, they do give us an update either on Twitter or in a press release in the next couple of days. But we're going to sit back, relax, and wait for deployment here in about 15 minutes. I'll be right back.
Acquisition of signal, Tasmania.
Welcome back once again for our webcast this morning. We had an on-time liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40 and first stage landing on our drone ship. At this point, second stage has completed its 2 MVAC burns, and we're now coming up on deployment of our Starlink satellites. That should be happening here just momentarily. Looks like we may have lost our, oh, there we go. There's the view back as we're going to be passing over Tasmania. Great sunlit shots there. At this point, the second stage has begun to spin a little bit so that the Starlink satellites have momentum to space out after deployment. You can actually see that spin if you look there on your screen. I'm hearing we might lose that ground station signal
Payload separation confirmed.
prior to deployment. Oh, but there we heard the call out, and we can see it on the screen. We've got deployment of this batch of Starlink satellites. There you can see that they are slowly separating. We ended up losing that signal, but
Lost the signal,
just after that deployment. So as you might have noticed, they did begin to start slowly separating out from the second stage. Shortly, they'll be deploying their solar arrays, and over the next few days and weeks, they'll distance themselves out from each other and use their onboard ion thrusters to make their way to their operational orbit. But with that, we're going to bring our webcast to a close. Thank you to the Range and FAA for supporting today's mission. If you're interested in Starlink service, head over to starlink.com and sign up. Thanks for joining us, and have a great morning.